Well, good morning, everybody. This is Sean, the guy who sews, and I am here with my very special guest, Erika from Little Glass Quilts. So I did get the name right, didn't I?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I've got to transfer everybody across because for some reason, whenever I do a live, I set everything up and I tell it where to go, and then for whatever reason, it starts to go to a whole new link. So, oh joys, it is what it is, though.
It's too early for the computers.
Yeah, and I mean, I've tried to figure out what the deal is, and I just cannot figure it out. But it is what it is. So I'm just going to get everybody over to the correct link. They're all used to this, so it's nothing.
Do I have to do anything on my end?
No, you're fine. Okay, let me just do this. I'm surprised Donna hasn't done this already.
Yeah, like I have no idea how many people, but replay. Love replays.
Okay, well, it looks like a bunch of them already wandered over. So I just want to say good morning, everybody. It's hopped on over already. It looks like Donna is here. Nancy, good morning. Amy C, good morning. Cheryl, Mary Jane, Carrie, Kay from the Purple Wall. Hey, Heather from the Debt Free Quilter. Janet, I'm so glad you could meet us. The Janet's from Western Australia. And
Nice.
My friend Sean, the Moldy Lasagna, has found her join us this morning again. So.
Sorry.
Okay, oh, you're fine. Actually, let me just switch that over. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for bearing with us this morning. We've had some technical difficulties, but like Donna was saying earlier, it just seems to be a par for the course here on YouTube recently. Good morning, Stephen. Thank you for swinging over and joining us. Diane says, good morning, Sean. I'm actually awake. Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad somebody's awake because I'm still on the struggle bus for that. So what we're going to do today is I've got my friend here, Erika from Little Glass Quilts, and she does regular quilting just like myself. But in addition to that, she does stained glass quilting. And I just think that is absolutely fantastic. She has some displays up there behind her, and I think she's going to show us some more items as we go along. But her stained glass work that she does looks like quilt blocks. And I just think that's absolutely fantastic. I saw this a month or two ago when she was on her friend Courtney from Pieces, Love and Quilting. And I was like, I absolutely have to have Erika on my channel for Brekkie with the Guy Who Sews. So why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself? She's on Instagram. She hasn't migrated over to YouTube just yet, but maybe in the future. So if you are on Instagram, definitely check her out. I've put the link in the description below. I always get that backwards. So that way you can go over and visit her and check out all the beautiful work that she does.
Yep. So good morning, everybody. I'm here in basically San Antonio, Texas, 51 years old. I was born and raised. We lived up in Missouri for a couple stints, but my mom's had me sitting at a sewing machine since I was 9. Like I was learning how to sew before I could cook. And she taught me everything. And then I worked right out of high school. I started working at fabric stores, worked all the way up to management. So I was retail management. Besides sewing, I was also working. I'm going to date myself here. I was working. My first job was at Cloth World Fabrics. And then they got out by Joann's. And then I worked at 3 Michaels, and I worked at a mom and pop quilt shop. So some way, somehow, I've always been around sewing and fabric. I started out sewing clothes. That was like my thing, clothes and draperies and things like that. I didn't get into quilting until my 30s when I punched out my first kid. And then I was just, new mom, new babies, and like, okay, I gotta make a baby quilt. And then it just kind of, I got away from clothes and stuck with the quilting. I always tell everyone I like the quilting better because the bed doesn't complain if it doesn't fit right. It's kind of my thing.
That's a good way to think of it. I've never thought of that, but that's really great. And it's interesting that you have a retail background as well, because my first after school job in high school was at a local, well, it was a national chain, very similar to Walmart. It's called Big W. Janet would know exactly which one I'm talking about. But it's very similar to Walmart, Target, that sort of thing there. And that's really, I haven't worked in any quilt shops because for the primary reason now, if I worked at a quilt shop, I'd probably go broke buying it.
Yeah. You give back more than half your paycheck, more than half.
Yeah. Afford it.
Yeah. At one point I had like 5 machines, and Cloth World had this amazing program that if you made something for yourself, you get the product, you got all the products and everything at half price, as long as you had it on display for a month. So I had a lot of cool in the moment fashion stuff, And then I remember when I worked at the little mom and pop quilt shop down in the valley, I literally did it just to get out of the house. So it was like a 30-minute drive from my house. And if I brought my lunch, I would drop the kids off at the daycare. If I brought my lunch, I literally broke even, but I just wanted to be in that world and invested it. And I remember the first day that I was there, because I was the only young one there. Most of the people were silver haired and whatnot. And I remember my very first day, they tested me, and she gave me a, do you remember the pattern, the log cabin Christmas wreath? She just gave me the pattern. She's like, all right, let's see what you can do. Make this. And I looked at it. I'm like, I had made it 10 times when I was at Cloth World for store displays. I was like, I can do this shit blindfolded. So, I grab the fabric and I just sit at the cutting table and I start whacking the 2-inch strips. She comes up to me. She goes, huh, you do know what you're doing. Yeah, I kind of got this. But I had that job just so I could be still in the world of quilting,
Absolutely. All right. So Janet Johnson's asking if you have a YouTube channel, and the answer to that is not yet. You
guys sound like my husband. I know. I need to.
And if you do, definitely let us know, because I'll be more than happy to promote you. I know Courtney will.
Yeah, she's a doll.
Yeah, I love Courtney. Courtney and I are good buddies. We've known each other now for, I don't know, I guess like 8 or 9 months, I think it is.
About the same.
So, yeah. So if you ever decide to make the jump over, please do so. You need a link.
TikTok is where it's at for me right now. My TikTok is blown up. Whoa.
Yeah, I haven't messed with TikTok yet. I'm concentrating on this, the YouTube side. I mean, I've started the occasional link up at Instagram. I mean, I scroll through Instagram to see all the pretty quilts more than I actually post myself. So I'm going to throw a link up to Erika's thing. Just a second. Sorry for the talk.
Yeah, you can just type in Little Glass Quilts. That's my handle on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and that's also my website.
Yeah, makes it easy. All right, hang on a second. No, I wanted the link not to go there. Hang on. Oh, hang on. Clicked the wrong button. That's my fault. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm putting Erika's. Oh, hang on, that doesn't look right. Oh, okay. Hang on. What did I do wrong here?
You have me on the screen?
No, I'm looking at my computer. Let's try this and see what happens. If I have my lives and they go nice and smooth, and then some days they're a hot mess, and I wonder how people sit here and watch it.
I'm just glad it's from sunrise, because I got ready this morning and it was still dark, and I was like, oh, you won't be able to see the glass. And so, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I always forget I'm an hour ahead of you guys. So, all right. So you said you started quilting at 9, so we can skip over that. And then you said your mother taught you, correct?
My mother what? Say again?
She taught you how to quilt, correct? Or sew?
She taught me how to sew. She absolutely taught me how to sew. The quilting, it was kind of a 50-50 on the quilting. I tried to do it on my own, and when I was making mistakes, then I ran home to mama. So it was, I tried to do it on my own, and it is simple, but it's a different hat from sewing. It's like I always say, making a taco, making a cake, you're still cooking, but it's not the same thing. So I was trying to self-teach myself quilting, and I finally conceded, and mama was right. And so I did a lot of learning. And she used to teach classes. She taught in a bunch of the national chain stores where they have like teachers, and you can go in and do, workshops, whatever. So for years, she taught in a bunch of those things. And a lot of times she would teach in the stores that I was at. So if I had a day off, I'd go back to the store and I'd sit in her class and learn right there with the students. So she taught both sewing and quilting.
Oh, that's awesome. And having that sort of resource at your fingertips was fantastic, because like when I started getting interested in sewing about 9 years ago, I had nobody around that quilted or even sewed. I mean, my mother-in-law didn't sew, or still doesn't. And none of my friends or relatives. I mean, I just went on YouTube and learned that way. So, you're very much blessed that you had, all that one. those resources at your fingertips. I mean, I've done pretty well for
You have?
self-taught, but it would be nice once in a while to have someone there with you. But that's where my viewers come in really handy as well, where if I have a question or something, I can just reach out to them and say, hey, what do you think? And
Yeah.
I'll get 65 responses. And I learn a lot that way.
Yep. There's nothing better than a book that can talk back to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I totally agree with that. What is your favorite thing about quilting?
I love the magic of getting, one big fabric and whacking it down into a zillion pieces and then putting it back together and seeing what it does. I love the dance of the fabrics and the prints and how you can have two fabrics, even just two, and put 10 people in front of you and you get 10 completely different worlds. I love that. There's just something about the magical dance of calico prints getting chopped down and then put back together. I love it.
And so you worded it almost identically to what I do. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, like you. I don't do jigsaw puzzles anymore. Like it's the same basic thing. You're cutting it into little pieces and putting it back together. And it's interesting that you said about the 10 people doing 10 different things. Like I was on a live with one of the other content creators on YouTube earlier this year, and we were all told to bring a charm pack and up 2 yards of fabric and do something. And we all did totally and utterly different things. And it was fantastic to see what, 7 different people did. So,
yeah. And that's the magical part of it. Magic. And there's no wrong way to do anything. It's just your way.
Yeah. I mean, you do you. I mean, I'm a huge supporter of that. It's like you do what you feel is best. I mean, it's your craft. It's your free time. It's your enjoyment. I mean, you do what you enjoy. I mean, if you're doing it for a business, then you got to do what the customer wants. But if you're just doing
it's your therapy.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that. Like, it's definitely your therapy. And I find it very therapeutic. Like, there's a lot of times I'll have a very taxing day at work mentally. My day job is not physically taxing at all. I work in an office. Mm-hmm. But mentally it can be kind of taxing at the end of the day. And it's nice to be able to come home and just sew some stuff together. Like it sounds crazy to people that don't quilt or sew, but it makes perfect sense to us.
It sounds neurotic to them,
Yeah.
But I'm one of those ones. I have to have my hands busy. Like I love that I can quilt, and you can get to certain stages where it's like repetition, and you can just zone out, put something on the TV or the radio, and just get lost for a couple of hours, and just keep your hands going and just let your mind wander.
Yeah, and that's one reason I like to have multiple projects going on at once, because sometimes I want something technical, and then sometimes I want something mindless. Like I made a quilt earlier this year. It was made out of 2.5-inch squares and some bigger. I think it was a scrappy project, and I mean it was mindless. And some days that's just what I needed, and it was great.
And sometimes those are our favorite projects.
Oh, they are. Yeah, just different days you require different things, and I know some people are monogamous quilters and they just work on one project at a time, and my hat's off to you if that's you, but that's never going to be me. If you want me to do one project at a time, you're looking at the wrong dude.
Well, you hit a stopping point, your brain goes, I don't know if I like that, or you run out of the fabric, or you run out of thread, and you kind of have to shelve that, and then you start another project, and then so
exactly. You mess something up really bad and you got to pull out Jack. Sometimes it's, rather than getting frustrated, it's better for me just to walk away and go try something else. And then I come back to it 2 or 3 days later, and it's just like, bang, away we go. It's all good.
Days? I'm impressed with you. I've got some orphans that are a couple of years old.
I've been down that route. I mean, I started my YouTube channel about 11 months ago. Nice. And one of the big things I wanted to do this year was to pull out those long-time residents that were half finished, a quarter finished, and finish the quilt tops. And that was a big push for me earlier this year. And because I had, I think 3 or 4 quilt kits from Craftsy back in the day when they sold quilt kits that were not started or only partially started. And I'm happy to say that all those quilt tops are done. So
kudos.
I know, like that was a goal for this year, and I hit it on the head. I'm very, very happy with myself for that. Looks like we have a few more people hopped in. It looks like What did I see earlier? Oh, okay, Joyce Baker, good morning, good to see you. And then it looks like Stephanie from Stephanie Stitches opted in. I think I said good morning to Cheryl earlier, but I may not have. She says that she has multiple projects going as well. Joyce says you don't want Jack to get lonely, ha ha ha. And that's a kind of a joke with me because I always say that Jack is my favorite notion. He's the one that we love to hate. Like, yeah, we don't want to pull it out, but where would we be without a seam ripper? Like,
right. Ooh. Yeah. That you love to hate that tool. Yeah.
So it's kind of a running joke. Like I'm all about just saying Jack's my best friend. He's my favorite notion. But speaking of that, what is your favorite quilting tool or quilting notions?
My favorite quilting tool or my favorite notions. Well, I love my Olfa, my rotary cut system, because I can remember when that first got introduced, and all of us went, like that's freaking genius. So I love my rotary cutters. Love them, love them, love them. I've got several different mats, and then I have all my rulers. Of course, and then when my mom passed away, I got all of her rulers. Like I have a lifetime supply of rulers. And then I remember we were talking about the quilt show that I went to. These little snips, don't ask me. There's a million different kind of snips you can have at your sewing table. I just love how these fit in my hand. They're perfect. And then I'm old school. You guys remember these? I can never remember what the heck they're called. A stiletto. There you go. Yeah. So I cannot function without my stiletto next to my sewing machine. When you're trying to line things up, you're trying to get that little bubble. This is one of my things. I've had this for years, and I will tear the house apart if I can't find this little thing. It's just the handiest tool. Why more people don't know about them and don't use them, I can't function without this thing. That's probably hands down my favorite little guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard of the stiletto, but the only reason I did is that a couple of my buddies, Donna, who's here in the chat with us, and then So Becker, and that actually bought me a new seam ripper, and it has a stiletto on the back, and I still have to go up to Northern Virginia to collect it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to actually getting that and actually using it, because up until that point, I had no clue what I always thought a stiletto was like a type of high heels. Isn't it like
right? Yeah. No, it's when you're sewing and you got your little seams and you want to kind of make sure the seam folds the right way with go under the presser foot. And speaking of presser foots, my mom taught me old school. I have my walking foot on my machine and it's never come off. It does not matter what project I use. I have to use my walking foot. Like it's a permanent part. I know a lot of people love their 1/4 inch, their quilting foot. And I used to have the acrylic one, and then I was working on some big project and I was just doing, jelly roll, just straight stitching, and you'd start at one end, at the other end they're like off by that much, and I'm like, what the truck is this? And so busted out the walking foot and it's stayed on my machine forever. No,
again, I think that's great. And it's actually talk about the walking foot. I'm planning on going to the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Show next February, which is like 20 minutes up the road from me, which is awesome. I love having a huge quilt show so close by, and they have workshops and everything else, and one of them is quilting with your walking foot.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm very, very interested in learning, because I don't use my walking foot a lot, but it'd be interesting to see how that's taught, to learn something new. So I'm very, very, very interested in seeing how that works.
Yeah, I love mine. Hang on a second. I got a basset that wants to go out. So I gotta
dogs first.
They run the house and they know it.
Yep.
Which means with one going, the other one's coming real soon.
That's fine. I mean, we all love dogs here. I have 3 myself. We have, and they're always on the channel. We've got little Finley. Yeah, little Finley. She's a Dachshund Beagle mix. So we got a Beagle, and then we got a long-haired Dachshund as well.
Nice. Yeah, my TikTok family, they all know my bass holes. My husband hates when I call them that, but in the basset world, that's what we call them. They're not basset hounds, they're bass holes.
All right, Amy C says that quilting with the walking foot makes such a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Kathy Klein says good morning from Illinois. Yes, I'm definitely I'm very, very interested in that class, and it's something I want to do next year. So I need to, go ahead and get registered. Joyce says
if you've never used a walking foot consistently, especially with quilting, because it sounds counterintuitive. Most people think of walking foot with fabric, or not with fabric, with dresses, with upholstery, with big pieces. So when you're using little stuff with little 1/4 inch seams, most people don't put 2 and 2 together. And sometimes when you start with somebody that's never used one in the quilting headset, they feel like they're just got 5 left feet. It takes a while to get used to having that big thing. It takes a while to visualize your 1/4 inch, but once you get used to it, you probably won't ever go back.
Yeah, I've used it a few times. I mean, I would feel somewhat comfortable. And then it looks like, oh, hang on a second. Heather, that free quilter says I should get the book Walk and Walk 2.0 would give me a head start in time to practice. I think that'd be a good idea. I mean, yeah, I think that's something I would like to try. I mean, I'm always willing to try new ideas, new techniques, and that's something I've said a few times here on the channel, is that I want to learn everything. So,
and that's the fun about sewing and quilting is it's always evolving, it's always changing, and
yeah.
Us quilters, we all love the new and shiny. So something new comes out and everybody goes and tries it. It feeds our addiction well. But some people are just insanely genius when they come up with a product. You're like, where the hell has this been all my life? Why didn't I think of that?
And what I consider new might have been out since Napoleon was a boy too. I mean, I don't know. Yep. I'm always scrolling, YouTube and Instagram and that, for inspiration for new things to try, because I don't want to sit there and do the same thing week in, week out. I like to always have new stuff to show, because it's not always something like what I might consider normal or something that everybody knows about, maybe totally new to someone else or something they haven't tried. Like I did a bear paw block earlier this year, and I thought I was like the last quilter on earth to do it. And apparently a lot of people haven't. So
that was one thing that especially when I was at Clothwood, when we could make things. But Clothwood back in the day, we used to have to make our own store displays. Like when they were bought out by Joann Fabrics, Joann's would have the displays, the dresses and the quilts and the whatever. They would have them made somewhere else and have them shipped to us. But at Clothwood, we had to make our own displays, and we'd either do them in-house, or if we bought it at half price, we'd take it home and bring it to the store, or we hired a seamstress. We always had a Rolodex of seamstress. But I remember there was a lot of times I would volunteer to make something that we had to make for display, just to have the experience of making that one project, or working with that one fabric, or working with that pattern designer, and just doing one of everything that you absolutely could. And it just kind of it broadens your horizons. It makes you think of things that maybe you hadn't thought of, or you get to play with a new gizmo or the new fabric or whatever, and you kind of, I don't want to say become an expert, but you kind of get a bigger footing. If you only make pancakes and eggs, you won't know how to make tacos. So I always, and I still do that to this day. I still play with something that's new to me, that maybe not new to the world, just to have the experience. And it's that old Bruce Lee thing, learn everything and only keep what's important or relevant kind of mindset.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know until you try it. So try everything.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, it might be something that I try once and then go, this is never happening again. And that's okay. At least I gave it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, my seat went down. Sorry.
Yeah, Donna says that, Erika, you're right. It's a game changer and the best walking foot rocks.
Does.
This is not my day.
That's okay. I've stumbled a couple of my words too. Sorry.
My viewers are so forgiving and so gracious, and okay that we're not perfect, so.
Yeah, no such thing as perfect.
No, especially we're not here, and that's
done is better than perfect. My friends tell me that all the time when I'm working on a glass project and I'm like fighting apart, and they're like, Erika, done is better than perfect. Just do it. Just shut up and do it. Yes, they're always right.
Yeah. Now, if it's entering a quilt show, you need to be perfect or as close as you can to it. And that's something I've spoken about recently in my videos, because I do enjoy entering in quilt shows, even though I'm not up to the level I really need to be. But, I'm giving it my best shot anyway. But other than that, I mean, I believe in the 95% rule. If it's 95% perfect, it's still a solid A.
You give yourself 95? Kudos.
Hey,
there's some days I'm sitting at 75. I'm just saying, I just get it done.
Hey, that's fine. That's still a passing grade, but like, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think someone was saying earlier this week somewhere that if you can't see the mistake while you're riding past on a horse, it's still good. Like, yeah, done is definitely better than perfect.
And that's why I say a bed cannot complain if it's not right, if it doesn't fit right. The bed
And
can't bitch.
I've never heard that before, but I absolutely love that.
Yep.
So, and I've never been a garment sewer. I admire people that can garment sew. I've seen some wonderful people that can sew really, really nice stuff, but yeah, not me. When people ask me, can I alter this or can I do that for clothing? All right.
Why that offends us to our absolute core, I don't know, but all of us, anybody that has any time sitting in front of a machine and we're doing our thing, even if you're doing it for a business or personal, the thing of, can you mend this? Can you hem this? Universally, it offends the snot out of us. Like, no.
It doesn't. I just don't find any joy in it. And I'll hem stuff for my wife. I'll do it for my father and mother-in-law, and that's about it. But I'll fix, like, if there's a busted seam or something, but altering stuff, I just don't have the skill set, and I don't want to mess it up.
I have a drawer here full of dresses that just need a quick little 5-minute adjustment. And instead of actually doing them, I did something else that, if the strap comes off or the whatever, I could sit down and spend like maybe 20 minutes and get them all done. But do I know they just keep sitting in the drawer of shame, and the drawer of shame just gets more and more stuffed.
Yeah, we'll put that down. We'll call it procrastinating or something. Like, you always find a quilting project to do rather than do that. So
yeah.
Heather says that she says, I just say, sorry, I only work on flat projects. There you go.
Nice.
So, I mean, I'd rather not mess something up. It's not my skill set. Yeah. And it's not something that I enjoy. Like, I'll make your quilts or something.
That's the thing, is most of us are doing the sewing and quilting because it's something we enjoy. And even if you're doing it as a business, pretty much can guarantee we started it as a business because we enjoy it, and then we found out we can also make a profit off of it. But right. At the core of it, it's still something that we enjoy. Yeah. So yeah, you hit it right on the head.
I totally agree. So I am not a great interviewer. I mean,
you're doing great.
Thank you. I feel like I'm a hot mess all the time. I mean, there's some others out there like Donna. She does a wonderful job of her interviews. She's so polished and everything else, and that's just not me. Janet says, strange how people hear that you have a sewing machine and think you can. And I mean, if you don't know any better,
Yeah. And most people are not doing it to offend, and most people don't know that it does bother us. Most people there's a lot of people that don't know how to sew on a dang button. Right. I still am irritated to no end that they're taking home ec out of, required classes in school, because I mean, I've personally witnessed, I remember I was with a lady once and she had like 5 little kids, and one of them was just crying crocodile tears because his overalls, the button had snapped off. And she's like, well, baby, that's okay. Just throw it away. We'll buy you another one. And I was sitting there with them and I was like, I ain't doing anything. Give me needle and thread and I'll put it on. And she thought about it for a second. She looked at me, she goes, honey, I don't have a needle and thread. You have 5 kids? How is that possible? There are people that just don't sew, don't cook, or don't drive. I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't do, but sewing, I think, is one of those, I hate to say it's a dying art or a lost art, especially when you go to the big quilt shows, because clearly it's not, but there's less of us that do than those of us that don't.
Right. But I think, having said that, with all the negative things that COVID and the lockdown brought us to, I think a lot of us have picked it up from that.
That's how I got into glass, was COVID.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few of my friends where we took, we've asked, when did you start? And there's a good percentage where they've said, we started in 2020. They started making face masks, and then they said, hey, let's do quilts. Let's give it a shot. I mean, I know Donna.
And I love it.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. What do I want to ask next? What sort of quilts? Yeah, that's good. What sort of quilts do you like to make? Are you traditional? Are you modern? Are you kind of a mix?
I I kind of lean towards the traditional, which is weird because I'm extra, but I like the traditionals. And even if it's not a traditional, if it's a newer pattern, it still has a little bit of an homage, or it's got a twist. I'm not big on applique. I love it. I can admire the integrity and the skill that goes for it. It's just not my thing, but I like traditional with a little bit of a modern twist. I'm doing a lot of scrappy things lately, only because I'm going through my late mother's stash, and she could put my local fabric stores out of business.
Right.
I am first and foremost a machine quilter, but I love to hand piece. So it's kind of like I'd like to do, even if it's a modernish quilt, I still go back to old fashioned hand quilting. I do use Courtney for some of my long arm stuff, only because when my mom passed away, I found her UFOs and then her mother's UFOs. And then I had my UFOs. I got 3 generations of UFOs. So the special ones, I'm taking the time to hand quilt. But yeah, I lean towards traditional, but usually with bright, obnoxious colors.
And that's how I am. I'm very much the same way. I tend to stick to traditional piecing for the most part, but yeah, definitely use bright colors. And then if you've watched my channel for more than 10 minutes, you'll figure that out. So yeah, it's very interesting that you and I have very, very similar aesthetics in that sort of way there.
I love it.
Let's see. There's some really good comments here. Amy C says, asking a quilter to hold a piece of clothing is like asking a person who drives a car to replace the engine. And then I'll get in touch with you later, Erika, too. Donna has a channel here on YouTube, and she would love to set you up for an interview as well. And she's the one I was just talking about 5 minutes ago that does a really good job interviewing. She's a lot more, polished than I am. So
You're doing great.
I'll get you guys connected later on, and that way you can do that as well. Apparently, we've got some Moldy Lazan. His name is Sean as well. He says he can replace an engine, and it looks like Heather says she's helped pull engines out before. There's a lot of work to do that. Janet's asking you, do you do the glass work?
Do I do glass work? Yes. So that's so you found me through a quilter, but you talk about a COVID project. I always tell everyone I got into glassing by accident. So first and foremost, I am a needle and thread quilter. But I always tell everyone I'm half Hispanic and half Mexican, which means or half Swedish. So which means the inside of my head is like a Crayola box. It's just bright and colorful. So our old house that we had in Missouri, we owned the house. So I painted all the walls different colors. Like every single wall was a different color. You walked in and it was like a Crayola box. They were pastels, but they were all different colors. It was just my furniture was all different colors. So anyways, we come down to San Antonio and we decide we're going to build a house, a brand new house. And my husband, God love him, he's like, Erika, can you do me a favor? Can you not go ape shit with the colors on the walls again? And I always tell everyone, okay, I agreed to not paint the walls different colors, but he didn't say boo about the windows. Okay, just so. So we were getting the house built. It's got these long 72-inch windows all throughout the house. And COVID had just hit. My mother, we had lost her to cancer like a month after we got here. So in 2018, I lost her to cancer. So, and then COVID hit, we started to build the house. And one day in my head, it just clicked. I was like, what if I can't paint the walls, but what if I figure out, I've always been a geek about colored glass. I'm bright and obnoxious. So one day it just clicked in my head. I was like, what if I took the quilting blocks and turn them into stained glass? And as I was having that internal conversation, I was going through my late mother stuff, and I found some of her old lesson plans from when she was teaching. And I found her old sewing plans, and I found her old quilting lesson plans. And for beginner quilters, she always taught sampler quilts. It's an easy thing for newbie quilters, right? And so I found her old block designs from the sewing lessons. And I was like, you know what, what if I do her lessons plans, kind of an homage to her? So it was during COVID, the lockdown was in full force. And so I went on YouTube. I tell everyone I'm a YouTube graduate. I went on YouTube and I studied and I studied and I studied. And then I started selling some things off, some things that I was downsizing for the house, some things that I was moving out of her late shop. and I saved up enough money and I bought my starter kit. And then it took 10 months to build the house. I resigned 13 of these. And so every month I'm making and learning as I go. I would, make one window. These are 12 inches by 33. And I kept selling stuff, and I'd get enough money to buy more glass, and then I'd make the next one, and then I'd buy more glass. And then during all of that, I also found my mom had a couple jelly roll packs of batiks. Totally not her wheelhouse, because my mother would like the old fashioned, just the girly, florally, like that was her thing. But the jelly rolls, and my husband lives basically over the road. He works 300 plus days out of the year. So I remember him saying at one point, he's like, I live in a hotel room. So to me, hotels are comfortable and home because that's where I'm at. So can the bedroom kind of be clean and hotel-ish?
Right.
And so while I was making these, I decided I found a quilt that was a very modern quilt, just straight stripping design. And I was like, let me do this. I took her jelly rolls, machine pieced them, hand quilted it, and then made the windows to go and match in that. So 10 months after I started this, I want to be a glasser. I had finished all 13 windows. I had finished the king size bedspread, quilting it by hand, and then the house was built. So the very first thing that we installed when the house was just virgin raw, first thing I did is I put the windows up, mostly because my girlfriend was like, get these things off the floor. They're scaring me. So we got them up. And so I stumbled it in about on accident. And then I was sharing the story on Facebook. I was really heavy on Facebook that time. And a couple of quilt groups I'm a member of. And I was just kind of like, holy crap, guys, look what I made. And so I was posting the windows and posting the whole 10 minutes while I was doing the process. And next thing I knew, people, especially once they were up, and the people that had been investing me for the 10 minutes, they're like, can I have one? I'm like, okay. So I came up with the name. I went down to the courthouse. I registered a DBA, and I kind of stuck a open for business sign, and now I got a business. I tell everyone it was the accidental business, but this is 100% self-taught. I just took my concept of I know my way around a quilt block. I know it. And so what started out as homage to Mom is here we are.
I think it's fantastic. And it was something I was talking to you about before we got on the live. The stained glass thing was something that attracted you to me because it's something my father does. He's worked with stained glass for at least 30 years, and he's done everything from like the small stuff that you do. He sent me over a like a little wall hanging type, about the same size as yours. That's got a koala on it, and then he's done stuff all the way up to fairly large church windows.
Wow. Yeah, no, I've been asked to do like doors and things like that. And I tell everyone, not quite my thing. And I only do quilt blocks. Again, it just started out as for the house and as an homage. And in quilting, in needle and thread quilting, I hate curves. Like Drunkard's Path and cathedral windows and double wedding rings. I hate working with curves. I hate it. And I kind of still have that mindset when I'm working in glass and lead. So I, for the most part, only do straight lines. So it kind of worked for me when people say, well, can you do a bird? Can you do a flower? Can you do a seascape or whatever? I mean, technically, I guess I could, but I tell everyone I don't do curves. That's kind of how I get out of it. It's my thing. And when it comes to the quilt block designs, I am by no means reinventing the wheel. If you go on Pinterest, YouTube, wherever, there's a lot of people that have done quilt block designs in glass. But to my knowledge, I'm the only one that's my shtick. Like I only do quilt blocks. Like that's it. And I've turned down a lot of people that have asked me to do other things. And quite honestly, I'm just not comfortable cutting curves in glass. And I would rather give that business to somebody that is comfortable with it and let them do right by those customers than me saying, okay, I'll try it, and then waste glass, waste money, waste time and all that. So I pass that business on to fellow people in a heartbeat.
Cutting the curves is hard. I remember watching Dad in the shed as a kid, him doing the curves, and like even if he did everything right, I mean, it would still break from time to time, and then there'd be a lot of choice language, and so yeah, I mean, stick with what you're comfortable with. Yeah, I don't think he ever cut himself, but and it was always the red glass, the really expensive glass was that that was the one I always decided to break.
Yep, the red glass, the heavily textured glass, and red is so hard to get right now. So I use it very, very, very loosely. And so for the people that are in here, if you don't understand with the glasses, the reason why red is so expensive, do not ask me how they figured this out. But when they get the glass in its molten state and they're getting ready to roll it, they put 24 karat gold in the molten glass. And it's the gold that interacts with the chemicals in there that gets you the red. So I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, well, can you get like a burgundy red? Can you get a pale red? And red is red in stained glass, because gold is gold is gold. You're either going to get red or red. There's not a mix. But, and now with the cost of gold going up, I was talking with a friend of mine that works, that has somebody that works in a glass production facility. And they were talking about what it's like to make the red glass, because they have to buy the gold from the facilities that have the gold. It comes by armored vehicle. There are armored guards that stay with the gold. And usually it's a 3-day run. The first day run, it's all the molten glass with the bulk of the red. And that's all the just bright red. Second day of the run of the glass will be red mixed in with whites or clears. So you kind of get the candy stripes. And the third day of the run is the last bit of the gold, and they mix it with a lot of white. And that's where you get the cotton candy pink. And the armored guard facilities will stay there with the gold until that last bit has been melted. And then they leave. So you're paying for the gold, you're paying for the armored truck, you're paying for the security. So what can cost me in clear glass 6 inches a square foot, in the red glass can be $40 on a low end.
Yeah, it was expensive when back in the 80s and 90s when my dad was working with it. So yeah, I had no clue that you that it had gold, and I knew it was something that went in it, but I couldn't remember what it was. So
yeah, it's fun to cut it. It's fun to grind it, because you get that dust, you get that like orangey goldy dust. And I'm on live and I'll zoom in and I'm like, look, can you see it? Because you can actually see the gold in the powder. It's really cool.
It's really neat.
Expensive.
So the other thing I was going to have you talk about today too was the you said you went to the Houston Quilt Festival recently.
Did.
To share with the audience what you thought, what you liked, you know.
Oh, what I thought is I you know, like, I don't want to, there's so much talent in this world. Holy cricket. There's so much talent. And you walk through the showroom floor and you get humbled real fast. You're like, I don't know that I want to call myself a quilter like ever again. You know, there's so much amazingness. And I've talked to a couple of people that have either were watching my live or other people's lives or have been to other shows. And most of us, I don't want to say most of us, that's not the right way to say it. A lot of people get inspired when they go to these. And I have heard a couple people say that they got dissuaded. They're like, yeah, no, I'm never going to get to that level. And here again, we were talking about it earlier, is, you know, those have to be at a level of perfection to be on the showroom floor. You know, done is better than perfect. But it definitely does inspire you and get you to think of things that you've never thought of, techniques you've never thought of, colorways you've never thought of. It's a great way. And then of course the showroom floor where the vendors are, and you get to feel and touch and see the new shinies and the new products, and walk around and see all the displays, people, you know, using the products there. Yeah, they're definitely inspiring. I highly recommend them. And I don't care if it's a great big one like the Houston show or something local that you have that your local quilt guild's fitting together. I highly recommend them for sure. And no matter your level.
Exactly. And I mean, for me personally, I love going to the shows. I get inspired. Yes, you do go there and you see some stuff and you'll sit there and look at it like you just said. And I'll probably never get to that level. Like,
yeah. But I know I won't.
Yeah, but for me, it's okay. Like, I like to be able to see what can be done, you know, and I'll see something that they've done and go, you know, well, I'm not going to do it as well as them, but it might be something I can do and it's going to look good for me. So, yeah, I definitely, for me, it's inspiring. Like, I don't, if you go into the mindset of going, well, I'm never going to be that good, then, yeah, maybe you shouldn't go. But if you go in there saying, okay, you know, this is really cool. How did they, you know, and then try and figure out how they did it and see if you can replicate part of it, you know, that might be good too.
Yeah.
So Joyce Baker is asking, do you collect the dust? Is it reusable since it's so expensive on the bread, or is it?
Personally, no, because normally when you the reusable glass, the people, it falls into the world of antiques and vintage stuff, you know, the old windows and the old doors. And I have not seen a single one of those vintage old windows or doors that have been at a price point that I can afford. These people think they've found the Mona Lisa in glass. I know there's research into it. I know it's heavy to ship. It's heavy to bring it home. It's heavy to, I understand all that. But most of the time it's the price point. And then that's deterring me from buying anything and recycling it. And then two, just imagine buying quilts and saying, okay, I'm going to cut up the quilts, and then you got to fussy cut the pieces that you want to use of the fabric. And it's more work to do that than it is to just start with a fresh piece of glass.
Yeah.
For me. There are some people that do it. That's just not in my wheelhouse. And plus most of the stuff I do, you know, is relatively a small size, like a 12 by 12. So it's a lot of work. And that's just, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say good morning to Mona. She's joined us this morning as well. So, all right, let's see what else I have for you. What motivated you to start your Instagram account?
I kind of handle my 3 accounts differently. Instagram, I've never been able to get a following on Instagram. The people that have hundreds of thousands, I'm like, how the truck did you do that? But for me, the Instagram, because it is a visual platform, I started Instagram just to follow other fellow quilters. Here again, it's like walking the showroom floor. It's for inspiration. And whether I have my glass and lead hat on or my needle and thread hat on, Instagram is just this plethora of amazingly talented people. And then it didn't dawn on me until I kind of started getting in there. There's a lot of pattern designers that are in there that are creating new designs. And I love working with the new designs. So I'll work with some of their stuff, and inspiration is definitely the reason why I got into there. Yeah. Definitely. And I've used some of the new designers. I've befriended them in there over my little bit of time, and kind of bantered back and forth. And I've used their blocks, their needle and thread blocks, and I've used them in glass and lead. And they're like, oh my God, you could put it in a different medium. I'm like, you can do anything any way you want it. So it's fun to be able to share and just open people's horizons as well as my own.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so a couple more interesting questions. What is your least favorite part of the quilting process? And I'm thinking more of the needle and thread part.
Binding.
Okay, and that's from what I understand, that's a fairly common answer. A lot of folks do not like binding. In the audience, let me know what you guys think is your least favorite part of the process. I don't mind binding. It's not my favorite process. But my least favorite is the basting.
Really?
Yeah. If I could pay somebody to baste all my quilts for me and I could afford it, now that's the big caveat.
I love it. I love it. Can you baste this for? I love that.
Yeah, if I was given the choice between, you know, having to baste everything, but someone bound it for me, or the other way around, I'd be like, yeah, give me the binding.
Yeah. I don't, and I don't know how most people do the basting. I know how I do it. I clear a spot out on the floor, and I throw the sandwich down on the floor, and I just get a long doll needle and I baste it while it's there on the floor. I usually have to fight off a dog or a cat or whatever, but I use the floor. And, in my old house, when I did, there was another king size that I had to baste, which of course I can't lay it out on the table and you want it to be flat. I took that puppy out in the front yard and did it on the driveway. Again, big old doll needle, just ran the stitches and I was done. So I don't know how anyone else bastes theirs. I use the floor.
Use my table. I mean, I did the floor thing for a while and it just wasn't for me. So, yeah. But again, you do what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Debbie Dunn says least favorite is binding. Cheryl says binding. Apparently I'm in the minority and everyone hates binding, and that's cool. So
and we were just saying that we like having a mind-numbing part of quilting, and we like being able to like disappear and get into it still just gets under my skin. It's like, I guess it's that you just want it to be done. You're like at the end of the race, and it's that last quarter mile that kills you, maybe is what it is. You just want it done. And I don't like to do the stitch in the ditch, and I don't like to, put it, machine strip it and then flip it over and then machine stitch it again. So I'm the one that I do the machine part of it, and then I flip it over, pin it, and then hand sew it. It just, I hate it.
Yeah. Hey, that's fine. Apparently, based on what I'm seeing here, is you are definitely not alone on that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Donna says I can send them to her and she'll base them on the long arm and send them back. Okay, I might have to take up on the other.
There you go.
I've actually considered taking mine to the office and using the big long tables that they have like in the conference room and that sort of thing there, and doing that during my lunch hour or something. That might be something fun for me to do.
My mother had one of those long hand quilting frames that was a king size. And I remember when she passed away, my dad wanted me to take it. He wanted me to have it. That was code for him saying, get the damn thing out of my room because it's taken up half the room, But again, she was a hand quilter as well. Well, she also did machine quilting. But I remember that hand quilting frame was ginormous. And I didn't want it in the new house. I didn't have space for it in the new house. So I put it on Facebook Marketplace and I gave it away. I was like, if you can get it in your car, kudos, you can have it. And the lady that came to picked it up, she had a bunch of her grandmother's UFOs, she said, and she was younger than me. She was in her late 20s, early 30s. And the thing was just sweet as hell. She was literally crying when we were packing it in the car. She's like, you have no idea. I've been wanting to finish my grandmother's stuff and blah, blah, blah. And just that moved her to be. I give away stuff all the time. Like, I gave her $1,000 frame. I was just like, get it out of my house.
Yeah, give it to a good home.
Yeah.
Grace at the Purple Wall says she's allergic to hand sewing. I've said that more than once, but I need to learn how to I do need to learn how to hand sew because one of the things I got dinged for when I put my stuff in the state fair this year was that I didn't finish the mitered corners on the back, and apparently you have to hand sew that on the back. So that's a lesson I have to learn. So
it depends on the judging panel too. They're not all the same. I have a friend of mine that I follow on TikTok that she enters a lot of things. She does foundation paper piecing, which is like above my skill set times 10. But she enters a lot of things. We've had a lot of conversations about her entering. And she says it absolutely depends on who the judging panel is and what company is judging it, because some companies are honing in on this and others are honing in on that. So what didn't pass in one show got the blue ribbon in the other show. Same quote.
Seems to me like it should be a standard. Here's your set of rules. And that's the kind of, and I haven't said this in the past, but it's, to me, that makes no sense. Like how are you supposed to know what the rules are before you? But yeah, I'm not going to get into that. So
politics.
Lisa says I really don't like attaching the end of the binding. I despise it. That's something I do want to show on an upcoming video very soon. I did learn a technique on how to make that a whole lot easier. Attaching the end. When I started my binding, good gravy. Like I struggled with that so badly. And then I saw a technique.
Corners.
Sorry?
Corners are my Achilles.
Yeah, binding the back. That's my hardest part too. But to get in the two ends to meet and it all run flush, there's a really good technique on how to do that. So yeah, I'll post a video on a tutorial on that very soon. So that way, if anyone else has issues with that, we can solve that problem. Mona says I don't like ironing. I don't iron unless I have to.
Oh, I iron as I go. Like I cannot not iron. And I hate ironing. It's like I personally can't quilt without having my ironing station next to me, because I iron as I go. I iron the pieces before I pin them. I sew them. I iron them open, spray it with starch. Like by the time stuff gets to Courtney, when I send a long arm through her, you could practically stand it up. I cannot function without my iron. That's just me. And everyone has their own way. I was talking with that. I was on my live last night, as a matter of fact, and I was doing some of my glass work, and somebody popped in there, and I feel like they didn't mean it in a negative way, but they were like, you have your foil in your tray wrong. And I was like, well, this is how I learned how to do it. This is how I watched other people. So this is kind of my method. If you have a different way and if you want to show me, I'll look at it. But you do you. There's 10 ways to make a chocolate cake, and they're all right. So this, you're doing it wrong, that phrase will get under my skin. I don't think there is a wrong way to do anything. It's like what, the ironing as you go. Some people have never ironed their stuff. They finger press it. I know a lady that does hand quilting. She didn't iron a dang thing, and they're freaking flawless. But that's a technique and a style that she's honed in on and mastered. I can't do it, but
Yeah, and you like, yeah, absolutely. You do you. I finger press most things, and and for the most part, it looks great. I sometimes find if I iron it, it ends up being worse than if I don't. So there's that too. So I mean, they kind of discourage, but I do what works for me. You do what works for you, and
Yep.
everybody else does whatever works for them. So
Yep.
we talked about your least favorite part of the quilting process. Let's talk about something more positive and ask what your favorite part is.
The construction of the blocks and just seeing it start to come together, and just seeing. And I lay things out on my floor. I don't have a design wall. I don't have a sewing room anymore, and I'm waiting for one of my kids to move out and go to college finally, so I can have my own sewing room. So I lay things out on the floor, and I like putting the individual blocks together and just seeing it grow and grow and grow. That's to me a lot of fun. And then I like the hand quilting part. My hand quilting is if I'm going to know I'm going to be traveling with my husband a lot, I'll have a lap quilt on purpose that will be my traveling companion, and I take my lap quilts with me all the time. Or if it's a bigger project, I love to hand quilt at night when the house is asleep, lights are out, it's late in the evening, put on a good movie and just hand quilt away. So the piecing and the hand quilting.
Nice. Yeah. I enjoy it too, but I think my favorite part is when the binding is done and I can hold the quilt up and go, hey, I'm done,
Taking it out of the dryer the first time is magical.
For sure.
No, Han, go lay down. Sorry, Bassett.
Oh, no, you're fine. This is one of the beauties of me doing these lives early in the morning is my dogs, they get up, they eat their breakfast, they go outside, they come back in and they go to sleep. And then they don't wake up till like noon. So
yeah.
I'm very fortunate in that respect.
Yes, you are. It's rude to brag. I know your mama told you this.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so
they hear me talking. I usually do all my quiet stuff in the morning. I do my computer work. If I'm doing glassing or quilting, I do the quiet part. I don't use the sewing machines. I don't use the grinder or the saws or anything. I keep the house as quiet for as long as I can. Because the second they hear me, they're like, "Bink, mommy's awake." So I got a lot of my work done in the morning, early hours in the morning and late hours in the evening. That's my most creative time slots.
Yeah, I'm fairly similar. Like when everyone else is not running around, is when I get most of my stuff done too. And it's kind of one of the reasons I like doing the lives now, because I can do my lives, and then if the family decides we want to go out and do something, we can. So that really nicely. And there's it's great that so many people hop on every week with me. I thought when I started this, I'd be lucky to have 5 people, and consistently we've got between 40 and 50, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
Nice.
I mean, I just can't believe the success this has been. But the hand quilting, I think is great because, like what you said about taking it with you, because it's nice that it's portable. And I'm jealous kind of my wife, because she knits. And, she can hop in the car and, just sit there and knit while I'm driving, and that sort of thing there. And I'm like, I'd love to be able
very portable.
Yeah, very portable, which, my sewing isn't, but, maybe I just
Q-snap frames is one of those products that when it came out, we all went like that. The Q-snaps for me are my lifesaver for hand quilting. So I have one bag that my snaps fit in perfectly. My lap quilt fits in there perfectly. And I got my little Ziploc with all my little goodies. And I usually have one bag ready to go. One quilting project, because I do travel. Luckily I get to travel often with my husband, not as often as I'd like, but I've always got one project just ready to go. And that always goes with me on the plane, or it goes with me, in the car or whatever. But yeah, I like to quilt when we're in the car driving. There was one time we were quilting, and there was a whack and stack that I had been putting off for entirely too dang long. So I was riding with him. It was like a 3-day ride in the bus. And I didn't realize I had been quilting so long that the next morning I woke up and my fingertips were sore, but the wrong kind of sore. I'm like, what the truck is that? And I realized I had a blister from pulling the needle so much.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, Heather says that she likes the quiet mornings too until her minions get up. Sean at Molder Lasagna says my cats are never up until I go to bed, and then all hell breaks loose.
Of course.
Crazy how the animals do all that mess.
And we never have a shortage of quilts, so my cats are constantly climbing under one, on one, around one. Yeah. And even if we I live in South Texas, let's be real, we have 1 month of winter. The rest of the time it's just freaking hot, but I still have more quilts than I have of anything else in here. So I'm constantly changing the ones on the end of the bed. We are constantly cuddling under a lap quilt when we're watching TV in the living room. It's the heat of summer, but we have the AC cranked down and under our quilt, covered in cats.
I'm just trying to run down this list to see what else I want to ask. Do you listen to anything in the background while you're quilting? Do you watch like TikTok, Netflix, TV, listen to an audio book? Do you like the silence?
I can't do the silence. My head has got to have something to get in a rhythm with. So yeah, I usually the only time I do TikTok is if I'm doing a live and I'm working on something, because TikToks are 3 minutes or less, or someone else's live. I usually, if I'm listening to a live on a TikTok, I've got my earbud in and I'm cleaning the house, but otherwise I will I'll sit here at my table in my sunroom, and then I've got my TV right there. And for the most part, I will only watch something that I've seen 900 times, because otherwise I'll stop and I'll watch it and I realize I've wasted 30 minutes watching it because it's a new scene to me. So I'll either binge watch something that I've seen for a million times, or if it's a project that's new to me or a style that's new to me, that's when the radio comes on.
Yeah, sounds same sort of thing to me. I can't watch something new because then nothing gets done. So
yeah, and I did audiobooks for a long time. Like I had a goal during the pandemic. I had a goal that I was going to read a book a month or a book a week, and I made it to 48 books. So not quite 52, but I made it to a lot. And so I found with the audiobooks that was easier for me to do when I was driving or cleaning again, because I couldn't think and also work at the same time. So I had to do like absolutely mindless stuff. But I did a lot of audiobooks.
Audiobooks are great I like them when I'm driving. Definitely good for that.
No.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. He's just being honoring. Maybe if I give him a toy or a treat. Oh. So, yep. Netflix. But I think I'm watching Game of Thrones for the 5th time. Come here.
Okay. Yeah, I that someday. All right. Well, next question was supposed to be, what does your craft space look like? But we've already seen that, so we'll skip over that. Okay. So, what is one of the silliest quilting mistakes you've ever made?
Oh. I said earlier that I don't like to do applique work. I admire it immensely. My mother was amazing, but there was one time that I was going to do a sunbonnet suit. And so I had the 12 squares cut out, and I was going to do it for the sake of saying that I've done it. Right. So I sat down and I had my templates, and I fussy positioned and markered, cut them all out. I did all the pieces, cut them all out. And then I started doing the hand applique work. And so of course you start at the foot, and then you do the dress, and then you stack it on. And then I got to the hats, and I realized that I had cut the hats backwards on the fabric, and there was no way to do it the right way again. I'm so irritated. I was like, how the truck did I do that? Like, it's the biggest piece on there. How did I not know to flip it? So it went in the drawer of shame for like 20 years. And I finally gave it to someone else. And I said, it would have taken me 30 minutes to recut 12 little bonnet hats maximum. But I was so irritated with myself that I made that stupid, easy mistake that, I never finished it. Even after having hand appliqued all the other pieces. Like, that was literally the last piece to go on there, but ticked me off to no end.
But thankfully, a lot of times when I do applique, I use solids. So if I do it backwards, it's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Come on, go lay down.
All right, I'm just got a few fun, silly questions
Oh boy.
to ask, and then I think we'll wrap everything up because I try to keep the lives, about an hour and a half, so we're not, I think, all day. But do you prefer, and I'm probably the only one on this book, but do you prefer solids or prints?
Uh-huh. Um, I prefer a 50-50.
Okay, good answer. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like I love my solids, but I also like prints too. But I'm kind of picky with my prints. I'm not.
I like a 50-50, like straight up, like the half square triangles, prints, and then a solid prints. And, like my mother liked print on print. That was her thing. She loved tone on tones, and she loved the little fussy calicos, and everything was just an explosion of prints. And I love her quilts, but me personally, I'm a 50-50 kind of gal.
Hmm. Yeah, we seem to be very, very similar in that
Nice.
way. All right, flying geese or half square triangles?
Half square triangles.
Okay, me too. Probably because I'm far more familiar with the half square triangles.
And less planning.
Yeah, less planning. Yeah. You said you don't do FPP at all, correct?
No, not personally. I have done it. I've had to do it, but not personally. No,
Okay, because
it
that would be
just blows my mind.
traditional FPP, but you've already answered that. So, do you prefer to machine bind or hand bind?
It's 50-50. The
Okay,
first stitch goes on by machine, roll
then
it
you
over, and then yeah.
okay. So you do it the show way. Good job. Um, I don't have to ask this one. Bold colors or muted neutrals? I mean, you've answered that one already.
You guys want a tour of it while we're wrapping up the last questions?
Yeah, I mean, like we'd always love seeing different projects. I mean, if you want to show us, a tour, we'd love to see it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I can keep answering your questions while we go, but
Yeah. And then machine quilting or hand quilting? Is that 50-50 too?
um machine piecing, hand quilting is my methodology.
Nice. And then do you prefer the pin based or spray based?
Pin.
Pin. Okay, me too. And then some non-quilting related. Do you prefer football or baseball?
Either. If I had
Neither.
to on TV, football, in person, baseball.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely a baseball fan. I'm not football at all. Do you prefer chocolate or candy?
Candy.
Okay. And then Coke, Pepsi, or no preference?
Diet Dr. Pepper.
Okay, that works. You have some beautiful stuff there.
Thank you. Coming around. I don't know how to flip it while I'm talking with you guys. This is a quilt design that came from I found her on Instagram. And so she was giving away a free pattern called a scrap dash. And so when we bought this house, I knew something was going to go in this transom, but I lived here for a year without having anything in that transom because I just couldn't find the right thing. So I found her on Instagram. It's Only Fabric and Thread is the name of her handle. And then I saw her free scrap dash pattern. I was like, that's the one. Oh, and so that was one of the projects I just got back from Courtney. So what I've decided, because I love quilts hanging on the walls.
Chat too.
So I have a curtain rod with clips here, so I can change this out. And so I have a quilt, just a little lap quilt hanging here on the wall to coordinate with the stained glass as well.
Oh, very nice.
Yep.
All right. So Courtney just popped into the chat. I guess she's with us. I'm excited to see her here because usually I think she's still asleep or doing family stuff when I'm doing my live because she's in the same time zone as you are.
Yeah.
All right. Mona says, I want to join. I'm a bit confused as to what she wants to join. Can you specify on that for me, Mona?
And then I started getting into, remember when you were asking me, what it is I love about quilting? I like the magic of the fabric and cutting it up and cutting the prints up, and seeing how they can translate once you broke them up. a hard time figuring out how to do that in glass. I wanted that magic in glass, but you can't get calico print in glass. So I bought a kiln and I taught myself how to paint on glass the calico prints. And so this is my new translation of the quilt block. So
that is fantastic.
Because again, I wanted that magic of a print, because that's what got me into quilting. So in order to be able to do it on glass, I started printing the prints on the glass.
Oh, very nice. I love how you've been doing that.
Yeah, that's my newest, it's my newest rabbit hole. And man, has it taken me places.
Oh, sure.
Same thing again. So my mother was a fan on tones. So this one was, I just finished this one. It was like an homage to her tone on tones.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Thank
you have
you.
a real talent for that.
Quilt blocks are.
Courtney says that she always loves your work and the friendship that you have. And I think I mentioned this earlier today, but yeah, this is, I discovered Erika through Courtney because she had Courtney on, Courtney, I think, was doing one of your quilts on her long arm on one of her live a month or two ago.
I just got him yesterday. I made a video for her on TikTok and an unboxing video. People love those videos. I like to make them, but man, people love to watch the unboxing videos. And then it's so fun to, when I sew my little glass quilts and I send them to people, they've started doing their own unboxing. So it's like turned into this thing. It's so much fun to see everyone go ooh and ah, and because seeing something on a screen does not compare to having it in your hands, especially when it comes to glass. And most of my people that buy from me are quilters, because it is something, we all speak fluent Klingon, we all speak quilting amazingly, but it's in a format that they may not have seen or not had a chance to own. So me showing you something is not the same as when you get it home and hang it in your own windows. Yeah, there's something to be said about just live and in person.
Yeah. And but I think a lot of you guys know already, but Courtney from Pieces Love and Quilting is having her Zoom this afternoon with her viewers. I think it's at 3 p.m. Central, if I remember correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And if you're interested in joining that, definitely get in contact with her, because I believe it's going to be a good time. I hope to make that one this afternoon.
She's amazing.
Yeah, Courtney's a lovely lady. I think very highly of her. And I wish her the very best and success on her TikTok, and I think she has Instagram and her YouTube channel as well.
I told her I'm single-handedly keeping her busy. I'm sending her I'm on a mission, because like I say, I've got 3 generations of UFO tops. Most of them are about 95% done. And in my lifetime, I will never finish quilting them, especially if I want to do the hand quilting. So I told her, like, the special ones, the ones that like mean a lot to me or I knew meant a lot to them, I'm going to hand quilt those. But the others I'm going to send off to her. And then I have a couple of projects that I just want to do for the house. So I'm single-handedly keeping her consistently employed.
And she appreciates that, I'm sure. And she did confirm that it's at 3 p.m. Central. So, yeah, if you want to hang out with some of your quilty friends this afternoon, definitely get in contact with Courtney, and she'll give you the link to the Zoom. And she would love to have a nice big crowd there this afternoon. So, all right. And then she's also posted your TikTok link, because I did not have that. So thank you, Courtney, for doing that.
I just broke 12,000 yesterday. I was like, holy cricket, you bunch of goofballs.
Wow, that is neat.
If you're in TikTok, one of the videos that I just pinned, I'm giving away a 12 by 12 block. I'm going to do a drawing for it on Wednesday. I give away shit all the time, but there is a block that I had started when I first got my kiln and I was doing my hand painting. I don't like it. It offends me to my soul, because what I had in my head and what came out of the kiln ain't the same. I mean, we've all done that. We've all started something like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then you step back and you're like, yeah, that's not how I saw it. So that's one of the blocks And I was live with them, and they were asking me where that was. I'm like, it's sitting there in the shelf of shame. I don't want to touch it. And so they kept saying, you got to finish it. We love it. I'm like, that's why God makes chocolate and vanilla ice cream. I get it. So I just made a video yesterday. If you watch through the end, it'll tell you how to enter. It's there on TikTok, but I'm giving away a 12 by 12 block, which is, yeah. And it's 12 by 12 calico edition. So.
Excellent. Yeah, so definitely check out her TikTok. Courtney has put her link in there for us, so definitely check it out. And yeah, enter the giveaway, and maybe that wonderful block that I'm sure is absolutely stunningly beautiful. That just wasn't Erika's taste.
Nope.
That's great. You know, like I see quilts and colorways and that sort of thing all the time, and what appeals to a lot of people, I'm like, that's not for me. You know,
Right.
we all, like you said, some like chocolate, some like vanilla, you know, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, yeah,
Yep.
do what makes you happy.
And I could just sit it here in the house forever and let it sit with the other UFOs, or I could make someone else's day and make them happy. I am running a business, but I'm definitely not one of those. I try to not be one of those ones that it's only about money. Because to me, again, this business was accidental, 100% accidental. So I want to run the business the way, as long as I can still maintain a profit, I want to have fun with it and spread joy and you know, just make people happy. I stop.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I think we might go ahead and wrap everything up.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. I really do appreciate you hanging out with us this morning, and I hope we do get some of our viewers head over and check out your TikTok account and your Instagram. And if you haven't jumped onto those, that I know next to nothing about TikTok, so I can't comment on that too much. I know of it. I know what it is.
And I finally have a website.
Okay.
And I'm working on trademarking Little Glass Quilt. Like, it's already in the process. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I've seen the TM on there, so I figured you either had it or you're in the process of.
In the process. I'm about a month away.
Oh, nice. But I do enjoy Instagram, like you said, more for the just the inspiration. I see so many beautiful pictures and everything else, and it's just if you haven't checked out Instagram, definitely consider doing so, because it is a good way to check out a lot of different quilters and that sort of thing there. And if you start looking at quilting things, the recommendation system is great. It'll push you towards quilters and that sort of thing there. And I don't ever really see too many ads on there. It's not like some other platforms like Facebook where every second post is an ad. So
no kidding. Yeah. And I'm watching. It's working because my little feed is, and I'm constantly getting. Thank you guys. I'm constantly getting notifications of people joining this and looking at that. So yeah.
Oh, nice, excellent. Donna was asking me if you made anything in glass of a red robin. I'd say probably not, because if it's not curvy, if it's curvy, she's not doing it. So
yeah, I don't do curves in fabric, needle and thread, so I don't do them in glass. I mean, I've done a couple. I did a Hawaiian block because my husband is Hawaiian, and so I've never done a Hawaiian applique in needle and thread, but I made myself do one in glass and lead. I had to buy a grinder just so I could do it, and it's nothing but curves, and holy snot, that hurt my head, but it worked. So I mean, I'll do curves to a point, in the center here. I do a little bit of curves, but again, this is my shtick. I know my way around a quilt block.
Yep.
Exceedingly so.
Yeah.
And my library of quilt books is extensive.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, I hope you all have a great day. I will have my podcast tomorrow morning at 9 as per usual. Definitely check out Courtney's live this afternoon. And if I've missed anybody else, I do apologize. I try and do the best I can with this. Next week's live, I'll be back at 8 a.m. Saturday for that. And we will be actually putting together the So Sweet Puzzle Mystery Quilt. And I'll have a couple other guests with me. We're all going to be doing different colorways. So that's going to be, I've been looking forward to this event for quite some time. So definitely head back and check that out. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day and happy sewing, and we'll see you all in the next video. Hey, bye guys. As soon as I find the right button, hang on. Did they change this?
Do you have a blooper